Welcome back to Rocket Talk, guys. We're back.
Yeah.
What's funny is, to our listeners, it was only a week off, but to us, it was kind of a bit off. So we, as some may know, we did take a few weeks off of the episode. We recorded a bunch right before Christmas. So this is our first episode we're recording together in about a month. So before we actually talk about some of the stuff we did before in our time off, let's do a quick bev check. Connor, what are you sipping on this evening?
Feel free to make fun of me, because apparently I'm 19 again, but I just poured a crap ton of gin in a red Gatorade bottle, and I've been sipping on that.
Well, 19-year-olds don't do that because they don't have access to gin.
Yeah, what are you talking about, Connor?
Of course. Oh, yeah.
Underage people never drink. I never drank alcohol until I was 21.
Connor, that's not allowed.
I keep forgetting this is not the 70s.
Yes. I know you may be a 70s, kid at heart, but...
Or in your 70s.
Yes.
Yes.
Johnny, what about you?
I say.
I'm drinking a Sonic limeade with blue raspberry.
Ooh. I haven't had Sonic in so long because the closest Sonic is like 20 minutes from me, and it's very sad because I do miss some Route 44 happy hour prices.
I haven't been to Sonic in forever, but I was really wanting a limeade. And so I got, I also ate dinner when I was there, and I got a... Like, they have a list on the menu of, like, snacks and sides, and the lady asked me what I wanted for a side, and I said something that was on the list, I can't remember, and she said that doesn't count, and I was like, but it says it's under sides, and she's like, yeah, I don't know why that's like that. If it's not a side, it's under the sides. So I'm like, okay.
But it is like that, so can you help me out?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, but it is, so...
Did you ask to speak to the manager?
No, I didn't want to go full Karen. Yeah, I didn't. I was not feeling my most Karen, so I just I let it slide. No.
Oh, you're so nice.
I know. I'm so great.
I could have went on a Karen moment with the dinner we picked up tonight from a restaurant, but they didn't put my Coke in with it. I went in and asked for it, but I was like, oh, sorry about it. I was like, it's fine. I wasn't be like, yeah, you should be sorry.
Yeah.
Like, these people are making probably minimum wage or barely above it, so it's like, accidents happen. I just wanted my Coke because I paid for it, so... I am drinking, though, a Terrapin Beer Company Luau Crunkles IPA. And I'm drinking it in my nice, fun 8-bit NFL cup that Johnny and Connor can see, but listeners can't see. So it has little fake 8-bit helmet logos and then little 8-bit hops as well. So it's a nice passion fruit orange guava IPA. So it has the nice mix of fruity and IPA flavors. It's pretty tasty. So
that sounds like it.
Yeah. It's a local brewery in Athens, Georgia, where University of Georgia is. It's about 45 minutes outside of Atlanta. So nice way to support semi-local. And so yeah, it's a nice tasty beer. So, but let's kind of, instead of doing a nerd news now right off the bat, we'll get to that in a second. But let's talk about some of the things we did while we were off, because we haven't really been together to record an episode in about a month. With the holidays and everything, we've done a lot with some time off. So. What are some of the things you guys did? Like Johnny, what are some things that you did in your time off? Like any games you got out of your backlog? What are some of the movies you watched? What all did you do?
Yeah, the only game that I got that was new was Pikmin 3 Deluxe. That game was surprisingly short. I don't think I ever beat it when it was on Wii U, because for some reason I thought it was much longer than it is. I beat it in the main story in 10-15 hours, so... It was very short, and that's one thing that I did. I've been meaning to hold off on buying that until after New Year's, just because I wanted to stretch out my games a little bit, because I knew that there was going to be a bit of a drought for Nintendo stuff. So, along with that, I've started. Let's see. I've watched. What have I been watching lately? Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I've watched a bunch of that, and
great
that is
show.
Really funny. I also started watching Superstore.
How was that?
Really funny. Really good. Really
I've
funny.
I've heard a huge mixed bag where shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, most people I know love it. I've heard a lot of the mixed bags where some love Superstore, some hate Superstore. The ads make it seem very realistic to how a working in retail is, as someone who worked in retail for many years, but Yeah, I've heard a huge mixed bag of, like, there was a lot of jokes where it's so far in the pandemic that I'm starting super short. Like, there's people that were like that, but yeah, I don't know. I've heard a lot of
it's definitely a sitcom where there's some things that just wouldn't happen, but I do appreciate the fact that, like, this is something that it's a comedy that's a little bit more down to earth, I think, than most, and so the humor is not going to be as wacky as Brooklyn Nine-Nine is, but the realism behind it, and it's very sarcastic, and I really appreciate that. It reminds me a little bit of The Office. It doesn't have the mockumentary genre behind it, but the humor, there's some similarities between the two. Other than that, yeah, I've been watching, as far as my drama that I'm currently on is Friday Night Lights. And anybody who knows anything about that would be very surprised that I'm watching that.
Friday Night Lights is so good.
It is very good.
Friday Night Lights might be my favorite TV show I've ever watched. It's
really?
What season are you on? 3. Just started 3. Yeah, no, it's such a good show. Oh man, I watched the first season and a half or so, like when it came out in the early 2000s, and then I just kind of fell off because I just, like, some episodes didn't record or whatever. But then right before college, I started and I binged most of season 1 one day when I had nothing to do, and then throughout the first year of college, I finished and I went and just kind of plowed through it at the end. But yeah, it's especially, there's some episodes in season 4, season 5. There's one that you'll get to. I can't remember which season of the last 2, but it's a character loses like a family member, and it's probably the best episode of the whole show. It's insane. It's so good. I love Friday Night so much.
Good. Yeah, I'm loving it a lot. I didn't go into it expecting much, just because it kind of is everything I never would have expected to enjoy. Football, like, that's about it. No, it's very it just there's a lot of religious undertones that just don't vibe with me very well. And then
Texas.
It's Texas, and it's all football stuff, but, like, the combination of everything just somehow makes it just so good. It's just such a, like, it's such, like, everybody, you can tell that, like, the meaning behind the families and the, there's something about it that all the characters are very close together, and they mean the cheesy, like, we're family, that kind of deal. It's family oriented, and you don't see something, or I haven't seen a lot of that in such a realistic and pure way since in a while, and I really love that they've done that with this show. But yeah, it's yeah, I guess, yeah, that's about all I can say.
You're gonna get Michael B. Jordan too, when you get to season 4.
Yeah, so I do remember reading that he's in it. I haven't gotten to him yet.
And he's great in that too.
Yeah, it's a football show that even I approve. So no matter who you are, you'll probably like it.
That's awesome. Anything else you've been really consuming then outside of your normal?
I mean, I want to say that, like, I mean, I wish I could, but there's really nothing else for me to do, not right now in the middle of a pandemic. So I haven't really been playing much video games just because there's not much to play, and I've replayed everything I wanted. But then as far as other shows, I'm also watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Right, I remember you talking about that.
I did not like it at first. It took me a few episodes to really get into, but eventually I'm at the point where I'm really, really digging it a lot more than I expected. So, yeah, it's a good time to binge TV shows on Hulu.
Yeah. I haven't done a whole lot of TV show watching. Abby and I have been watching Ink Masters. It's just a trashy show to watch on Netflix.
Yep, that's fun.
Yeah, it's always fun to have a trash show like that, like we had with Love is Blind.
Those judges are so unreasonable.
I know, it's just like there's been times like, oh my gosh, this is the best tattoo of the whole show, and they're like, this tattoo sucks, and we're like, what? Yeah, it's been funny. Like we watched the first season over a couple of days. It we'd throw it on and just do that while we're hanging out. She also now that she finished The Good Place, she started watching it with me since I hadn't watched it yet, and so that's been fun. We're about halfway through season 2 right now, so that's been a ton of fun. Going back to Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that's a lot of the same production crews that are doing that, and then what's funny is Kevin from Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Sean from The Good Place are the same actor, and at least in Sean's first couple appearances, like they're basically the same character, just one is a like deity and then one is a gay professor. But I love the different the topical jokes of like the Blake Bortles stuff with Jason, and just all the couple episodes before that we just watched was the one where they keep doing the different tests and it keeps failing and Michael just keeps getting mad, and it's just like it's just so funny just watching all the stuff. But yeah, it's a nice fun show that we've been watching, so I'm excited to keep going through and seeing what continues to happen. I watched a few movies actually too over our time off, a couple new ones, and then one that came out a bit ago when Abby's family was here for Christmas. We watched Wild, which was the Reese Witherspoon movie from 2014 with Laura Dern and a few other supporting actors and actresses. It's about a recent divorcee, Cheryl Strayed, who she left Minneapolis to do the Pacific Crest Trail, just to kind of self-discovery and self-healing and all that after her life kind of went to shit. After her mom, Bobby Gray, who was played by Laura Dern, died. It's a good movie. It's like, it didn't really do anything that I've never seen in a biological drama, but it was solid. Reese Witherspoon was great in it as well. And then, of course, I watched Soul and Wonder Woman 1984. I liked both. Soul a lot more than Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was enjoyable, but it was forgettable. A lot of very basic plot points for me, but I thought Kristen Wiig was phenomenal as Cheetah.
Yes,
and
she was the best character.
Yeah, I liked Pedro. I know, Johnny, you talked to me about how you didn't like Pedro Pascal's version of
Maxwell Lord.
Yeah, of Maxwell Lord. He played a perfect cheesy televangelist or used car salesman, like, and that's kind of what his character was. I thought he played that well, where he was a quirky guy and it worked as quirky, but it was just like kind of a very basic plot and very predictable. So I was a little bummed on that one because I really liked the first Wonder Woman.
First one was great.
Yeah, this one was still solid. Definitely watch it if you have HBO Max. It's not going to reinvent the wheel, but I liked it. I really liked Soul. Soul was a
fantastic film.
It's a Pixar movie, so like I knew going in I was probably going to like it because like almost all their movies are good. Even their like okay movies are still really good. Like Toy Story 4 is by far the weakest Toy Story, but it's still a good movie. It's hard to compete with near perfection of the first three. But
is The Good Dinosaur, is that a Pixar film?
Yes, I have not seen that one. That's one of the few I have not seen.
It's their B material, and it's still really good.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, yeah, like think of like Toy Story and Nemo and Incredibles. Like all these movies are just so good, and so Soul was another great one. Soul visually is by far their best movie.
Stunning. It's absolutely stunning.
Everything from the lighting to just the different scenery you saw in with like The Great Beyond and The Great Before and all that, and all of the different Jerry's or Terry. Yes, Terry's. All the different Terry's.
The texture of the hair, I didn't notice it until they were in the barber shop, and that's when I started paying attention to the texture of the hair. And I was like, wow, it's stunning. Yeah. I also wanted to ask you, what did you think of the representations of before life and afterlife?
It's like The Good Place, how they do it, where it's a good way where they can take some different theological things and have it still not be, because if they try to have it be like heaven or like hell or paradise or whatever, then like that could turn people off of different religions or people who are a-religious. But I thought it was a good way to have a idea of something where it's not fully going out there and saying like, hey, this is heaven and stuff like that. So I liked how they did it. I love the idea of all the different soul counselors named Jerry, and how like they would always be like, Jerry, what do you think about this? Oh, well, I don't know, Jerry. Like that was fun. And then how you had Rachel House as Terry, and it was. But yeah, it also, what a loaded cast this movie has too. So obviously you had Jamie Foxx as Joe, and you had Tina Fey as 22. But then you had Questlove as Curly. You had Angela Bassett as Dorothea Williams. You had Daveed Diggs as Paul, Joe's this like neighborhood like frenemy type of guy. Like there's so many great actors and actresses that were in this. Another Pixar thing that they always have is they always get some big name actors to play some incredible, even minor roles. But yeah, great movie. Definitely need to watch that one if you have Disney Plus. It is definitely. I would definitely throw that up there as even though it was after our best of 2020 episode, I would throw that up there with the best of 2020 things, like retroactively, because it was that good. I think. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was amazing.
A couple other words too. I did finish Console Wars, the book I talked about on one of our first episodes last year. I got that for Christmas last year, and I read most of it right before the pandemic hit, and then I kind of got off it for a bit, and then over the last few weeks of the year, I plowed through and finished it, and then watched the CBS All Access documentary that was based on the book. And great book. Definitely recommend it. It's a pretty easy read, even though it's about 560 pages, but you learn a lot of history about Sega and Nintendo and their rivalry, and how both of them both messed up when it came with Sony, and how, because both of them screwed over Sony, that led to the PlayStation being the best console, selling every generation pretty much. So great book. I definitely recommend that as well. And then also I did play a lot of Call of Duty Zombies and listen to a bunch of music. So Connor, what about you?
Like you, I've been reading a little bit more. So I've picked up 3 books. I've finished one of them. The first one I finished, I decided to start the Chronicles of Narnia series that's been sitting on my shelf since I was a kid. I was like, I feel so bad that these have been collecting dust. So I actually just decided I'm going to read them. So I finished the first one, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which I started and finished in our break because it's less than 200 pages. So I decided I'm going to read those in chronological order instead of publishing order. I started Misery by Stephen King, and that book goes in 4 sections. I've completed the first section along with my brother-in-law, and sometime this week we're going to discuss it, kind of like a mini book club. And
that's one book that I've wanted to read for years.
It's really good. It's so I mean, I'm only one section in, but it's so far so great.
I know. I've the only Stephen King book I've read was Shawshank. Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, part of I can't remember what the novella collection is called off the top of my head right now. But like, as much as people like to kind of like just kind of push it aside because he's written so many thrillers over the years, but like he's written so many iconic books that then have become so many iconic movies as well. So like,
yes,
it's insane just how many different like incredible books that he has written that have then turned into movies or miniseries or whatever.
In this book, his character obviously gets in a horrible car accident, and he visualizes pain in such a great way as a tide that comes in, and it's a full tide. When he's feeling no pain, when he's on medication, you can see the water, and he's laying on the beach, and it's nice. But when the pain is there and it's throbbing, the tide is pulled back, and you can see all the ugly disgustingness at the bottom of the lake or the ocean part. And I thought that was a really good visual representation of pain. I love his writing style. The third book I just picked it up. I'm like 25 pages in. It's a book called Scar Tissue, and it's about the life of Anthony Kiedis, the lead singer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, nice.
And Jesus Christ, he started drugs young. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but when he was a toddler, his father blew pot smoke into his face, and that's kind of what woke him up, quote unquote, woke him up.
Jesus, that's insane.
Father of the Year, right? Yeah, so those are that book's going to be a long time. That's like 650 pages, so that's going to be a long read. But the other things I've been doing was I finished South Park: The Stick of Truth. If you guys haven't played that game, I recommend it. It's hysterical. Johnny, I wouldn't play that if your mom is in the same room at all.
Yeah, everyone that I've known that played it said it, like, with how much writing they did for it, it's basically like a whole season of South Park with that, and then the other game, A Fractured Butthole.
Yeah, I've finished the Fractured Butthole a few years ago. Both games are fantastic.
Yeah, I never really watched South Park, but those did both look like games that I would enjoy.
You don't have to be a fan of the show to appreciate the games. They're fun in their own right. What were you going to say, Luke?
So yeah, since I'm not much of an RPG person, that's like one of the reasons I've always haven't gone out and played them. But I'm sure if I could still find enjoyment out of it just because of South Park.
Yes, yeah. Those games are both short. I finished both of them in 20 hours. They're not long.
Yeah, especially for an RPG, that's really short because games like The Witcher and Dragon Quest and some of these games, there's 100+ hours to do everything. Like the main story can be completed in 30, 40 hours, but then with all the side quests, it just becomes a huge affair.
There's not too many side quests in these. There's a couple of them, like you can go and collect a bunch of their universe's Pokemon, and that could extend it, but I didn't want to. And then before we move on to our nerd news now, Em and I are almost done with King of the Hill. We're on season 12. I believe there's 13 seasons, and so we're gonna cry when we finish it. And we also finished season 1 of Ink Master, which has been. It's truly garbage television, but it's so addicting.
Especially
I do have fun watching it.
With I have to go pull up the names of like the first few contestants. I was so glad when they finally left because it's like they just complained and complained and complained. Oh, I'm not getting a fair shot. Like Jeremy and Heather, like they were just complaining about everything. It's just like shut up.
I was not sad to see them go.
I think the biggest surprise, spoilers for Ink Master Season 1 from 2012, by the way. But I was surprised that Josh got eliminated before the final. I thought James, because James was always the one where it was like, he was given, he would always do like middle of the pack work, like good enough to get by to not fall in the bottom 3, but like not good enough to really wow the judges. So I was surprised when they sent Josh home instead of James, especially after James did the whole 2 right feet or 2 left feet thing.
I thought that was going to send him home, but he does Japanese style, which one of the judges does Japanese style, and I was just like, wonder what happened there. Yeah, but it is addicting, and the show, it's just, it makes me want to get a tattoo, but I know I'd complain the entire time. I'd be crying. I'm not afraid to admit it. Yeah. And then the last thing is Em and I, we got a crap ton of vinyl for Christmas and my birthday, so we've been listening to a crap load of the Beatles and Elton John.
Nice. Awesome.
Which, old man Connor here.
That is you. You are definitely the old man, but awesome. Yeah, so let's move into a nerd news now then. So we only got one, but it's a pretty big one, I know, for us. I know it's definitely one that Johnny was excited for, and I was definitely excited for. I'm sure Connor is too. We finally got a trailer and then a 7-minute video about Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury to show us what the hell is Bowser's Fury. So the awesome thing about this is Bowser's Fury kind of looks like a mashup between the open world collectathon 3D Mario games like Odyssey, 64, Sunshine Galaxy, and the more linear style like 3D Land and 3D World. So I am super excited for this mashup basically that we're going to get. So we don't know how long Bowser's Fury is, but this looks incredible. I was so excited to see this. Johnny, why don't you kind of talk about what some of your thoughts were on this?
I was really looking forward to it. I think it's funny. I want to start by saying that on Twitter a few days ago I posted something like Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury comes out in 32 days, which means we won't hear anything about it for 31.99999 days or something like that. And then like 2 or 3 hours after I'd posted that, Nintendo's like, hey, tomorrow we're going to talk about Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. I'm like, you guys are on our Twitter, aren't you? You guys are following us.
That's perfect.
But and I was like, yeah, they must have been, they must have seen what we did and did this just to spite us. But I thought the trailer was really great. They showed us a lot, well, really anything. They showed us something, which is more than we had before, which was nothing. So I think it's really cool that you get to team up with Bowser Jr. I prefer him to Mario, of course, so I'm hoping that if given the chance, I can be him instead of Mario, and not just if I have to like get a second player. But basically you go around and it's a full like Luke said, a full Odyssey style playground, and you're hunting down these cat shines. And it's a lot less linear, which I definitely appreciate, which means you can do a lot of exploring. There's going to be, it's likely going to be stacked up really high, so you're going to have to climb a bunch, which sounds like a lot of fun, especially since Cat Mario's whole thing is being able to climb. It looks like it's a huge. I have been thinking about it, and I think if they were to ever make a sequel to Mario 3D World, it would be in this style. And I think because a lot of people loved what 3D World is, the base game, what it is originally, I think that this might be kind of a testing ground to see how people like it, because I would love to see in 3 or 4 years from now, I would love to see this style of gameplay in multiplayer. I think that's really the only way you can improve what is already so great with the original 3D World, is to make it, full camera, exploration. It just looks like a lot of fun. And in Bowser's Fury in particular, the ability to turn into Giga Cat Mario and
supersonic, you mean?
Kaiju-like battle is going to be something that'll be really fun. A lot of people making the jokes of like the Dragon Ball Z, the Super Saiyan Mario. It looks like it'll be a lot of fun. Even when you're small Mario and you have Fury Bowser, he shows up, having to escape from the terrifying, there's fire coming down from the sky and he's blowing fire at you straight on, and it just looks like it's going to be a lot of fun and like kind of anxiety building, which is really, you don't see that a lot with Mario games, so that'll be really fun to get to experience.
For sure. Connor, I know since you're not as much of a gamer as Johnny and I, but obviously you dip your toes into stuff like Mario and Zelda and all of that. What are your thoughts then on finally seeing what Bowser's Fury is? Is this making you more excited for the game, or are you still just excited, but you're going to kind of wait and see?
I pre-ordered it. This looks awesome.
Ooh.
I thought it was the coolest thing. I really like the design of Fury Bowser. I thought it was comparable to what's Ganon called when he's that massive red bull in
just Ganon. Yeah.
Is that just Ganon?
Well, Ganondorf is the human, but Ganon is the pig form.
Yes, yeah. So yeah. I thought it was very comparable to those senses where it's just pure fury. And so I thought the design was dope, and it just looks like a ton of fun. I wish I could go more in depth and deeper than that, but I just thought this looked awesome, and I wanted to buy it, and that's as deep as it's gonna get for me.
Yeah. It looks so especially like it was just awesome to see. Just like all of a sudden, this looks fun. All of a sudden, the music got, it got to like metally, and the got dark and rainy. Yeah, I'm excited to see. I just hope we find out how long it is too, because if this is a 2-3 hour bonus, like it'll be a little bit disappointing. Hopefully, it's a little bit longer. Like I'm not expecting it to be a full game, but with them adding the plus thing, I feel like we're getting something that it's going to be semi-substantial, because like if they're reselling it, but also Nintendo has resold packages with little to no changes for full price. So who knows? Hopefully it's more than an hour or two, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's an hour.
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm hoping it's a little longer. I'm hoping that, closer to the release that they'll say there's even more things to it, but we'll see. This might have been the last that we'll see of it, but I don't know. I'm really looking forward to online multiplayer. That's going to be
that'll be nice because now
yes.
Connor pre-ordered it. I'm planning on picking it up. Obviously, I know John will pick it up, so all three of us will be able to play. Even though I am down in Atlanta, and when the game is out, both of you are up in Minnesota. So it'll be fun to do that. Then moving on into a quick blast off or blow up. So WandaVision released the first 2 episodes this past Friday. So it'll be about half of a week that's been out by the time this episode goes live. I did not get time to watch it, unfortunately. So definitely don't go in too much spoilers then, obviously. But if you guys watched it, why don't you let's kind of go over it. So Johnny, I know you watched it. What were your thoughts on these first 2 episodes of the first new Disney Plus MCU show?
And don't spoil it for me either.
Oh, okay. Well, I will say that there's not really a lot I could spoil. Not a lot really happened that wasn't in the trailer. If you've seen the trailers,
I've seen the trailers. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, not a lot happened as far as that. I know that there's going to be more, but basically, I knew what it was going to be going into it just because I've watched the trailers, I've deep dived into it, and I planned out my morning to kind of just relax and watch it, because usually what I do is I'm watching a game I'm watching a show while I'm playing a game, so I'm only paying half attention to it. But I was like, this is big. This is the new Marvel thing. It's the first series or whatever. So I was like, I'm gonna get my coffee. I'm gonna watch just this show, and it is 100% like one of those old-timey black and white sitcoms, and they just go full into it. And I loved that. I absolutely loved that they did it. The actors look like they had the best time of their lives, getting to pretend to be, oh, golly gee, and it was so cheesy. And the fact that, usually in these cases I would be well, maybe that's kind of going to point against it, but they were upping it so much, and they were clearly it was supposed to be exactly what they were pretending it was. And so for me, I wasn't, it wasn't too cheesy. It was just they knew it was cheesy, so they really dove into it. And
they embraced the cheese.
They really did. The first episode is about, I won't tell you what happens or sitcom spoilers, but the plot of the first episode is they have a mark on the calendar that's got a heart around it, and they don't know what it is. And Wanda thinks it's their anniversary, and so she gets advice from the neighbor to be sexy and have a night, just a night just the two of them, and neither of them knows what the date is supposed to be. So they're both assuming the other one knows, and they're just not saying it. And so she thinks it's their anniversary, and he finds out that it's actually it has a heart around it, and so his boss is Mr. Hart, and it's the date that they planned for his boss and his boss's wife to come over for dinner. So while she's planning a sexy night, he's expecting his boss and the wife to come over for dinner, and so crazy antics ensue, and it is just it is so fun. It's so fun, just the way that they do all of it. It's just cheesy. It's just, that's the best way to explain it. It's not even, the first episode has hints of something more. I think there's a part where there's something on the radio that is speaking to them, and then there's little hints of glitching. There's some kind of glitching that weird things happen, but there's a way that they film it where the camera is back, like a sitcom, and then when things are getting weird and they're starting to either remember who they are or I don't even know if they forget. I don't really know what's going on. The camera focuses on them, and it's a totally different angle, it's a totally different perspective, and it really shows that something weird is going on. But in the first 2 episodes, it doesn't do that very much. And so aside from 2 minutes, maybe, everything else is just sitcom, just 60s sitcom, just full on it's nothing really special about it. It's just, he's a robot and she's magic, and that's kind of their shtick.
Do they tell you, is this before or after, do they tell you when this is going on? Because that's the one I can't remember if they told you, is this after Endgame? Is this while they're trying to extract the Mind Stone? Like, when is this?
I'm assuming, they never say, but I'm assuming it's the newest rendition of their story. So I'm assuming some other plot that we've never seen, some other enemy we've never heard of, is doing something to them to make them think. My guess, and this is not a spoiler, this is full on my theory, is they are both locked up somewhere. They've got cords, on their brains, and they're in a machine and they're knocked out, and they're envisioning all of these sitcom tropes and this sitcom wackiness. I don't know, maybe some bad guy is trying to extract their magic and their, robotness from Vision. I'm not really sure. I'm just guessing that there's some other entity out there that's got them knocked out and stealing their mind, their powers, or whatever it is. I don't know. I have no idea if that's the case, but it's the second episode is the very end of the second episode has more hints to what is to come. But even that is still vague. Like it's really hard to tell. Like, I wouldn't go into watching the first two episodes as anything more than watching a sitcom, because you're not going to get what you're looking for. You're not going to get those questions answered here. But it got me really intrigued to find out what's to come in the following weeks. So I really love it. Like I said, I wouldn't go into it expecting anything right now other than just the cheesiness of it. So if you're prepared for that and you like that, then you are going to love this like I did. I would definitely give it a blast off so far, but that's just because I knew it was going to be what it is. So if that's not really your thing, then you might feel differently, but I loved it. I'm loving it so far.
Yeah, because if you're going to do blast stuff, awesome. So I will definitely, when I have some time to watch it, but yeah, just with football and just a lot of the other things I've been doing this weekend, I haven't had time to watch it yet, but I will probably watch it before our next episode.
Okay, yeah, and I didn't mention real quick, the second episode is about Wanda and Vision performing a magic show for the town, and Vision eats a piece of gum, and he gets his robotness gummed up, apparently, and then he acts drunk, and so then they perform the magic show while Vision is acting drunk, and so wacky antics ensue, and the whole thing is just amazing. So
awesome. And I know that Deborah Jo Rupp, who was Kitty in that 70s show, is in it, and Kathryn Hahn, who's been a lot of things in a lot of different movies and shows in it as well.
Yeah. The actress who played Kitty in that 70s show is the boss's wife, and then Kathryn Hahn is the neighbor, and she's like the single neighbor, so she's the one telling Wanda about like, oh, you gotta surprise your man when he gets home, and she's the one that's like giving Wanda like sex tips and and just like how to be sexy and how to treat your husband the way he the way that he deserves to be treated. So
that gives me like Pleasantville vibes along with I Love Lucy vibes at the same time.
Yeah, yes. I know that with the production, they definitely had Elizabeth Olsen watch a lot of I Love Lucy and some of those other classic shows where she was like looking at the performance of Lucille Ball and some of these other Mary Tyler Moore and Liz Montgomery to see like how they were in their classic shows like Dick Van Dyke and Bewitched and I Love Lucy, to take that as inspiration. So not surprised to see that, because I know Dick Van Dyke Show, all those shows like were huge influences on the style they're going for with these different like eras.
I might even rewatch the first two episodes because I had so much fun with it. But this makes me really want to go back and watch all of the Wanda and Vision movies in the MCU, just to like get the really, really stark contrast between what this is to those movies where it's more dramatic. Another thing is, I love that Vision, he has a job and he does his job, but the whole like thing for shows back in the day is, the husband always goes to work, and what they did is they worked. That's what they did. That was their job. And so Vision's even like, what do we do here? And he's like, do we buy or sell things? No. Do we make things? No. What are we doing?
It's working, man.
And it's like, yeah, you're going to work. You're working. Like that's there's nothing else to tell you. That you're working. So
yeah, but if you can watch those again, that means you got to watch Age of Ultron again. That's kind of a snooze fest for the Avengers.
I liked Age of Ultron. I thought
Ultron wasn't bad.
It was
the weakest of the bunch, but it's
the weakest of the four, and it's not one like Toy Story. It's hard when you have some really good movies. Then like the one that kind of falls short just falls shorter. It's especially just with kind of the last few movies we had to end Phase 2, and then the first two we had a Phase 3. It definitely, like, I think, looking back, has kind of paled in comparison to some of the other movies, but also it's still a solid movie, but nice.
Yeah, but yeah, this definitely gets me more interested in going back to Wanda and Vision's movies, so I'll probably be doing that sometime in the next few weeks as well.
Awesome. Well, then let's move on into the topic of the week. And so this is definitely one that I've been wanting to do for a few weeks, but with our pre-planning for all the episodes to end the year, this one kind of got pushed to the back burner. But we're going to talk about Cyberpunk 2077 and its messy launch because it is still in the news, even though we are halfway through January. So for those who do not know, Cyberpunk 2077.
Both of you who might not know.
Yeah, so
even my wife knows what's going on with Cyberpunk.
Yeah. So Cyberpunk is a tabletop role-playing game, and a video game adaptation has been in development since 2012 by CD Projekt Red, who also did the Witcher game, same type of thing, where it's based off of a different IP, and then they turn it into a video game, and now The Witcher is also a TV show. But they have been making this game for quite a long time. The production really amped up once The Witcher 3 finished, but the game is a super ambitious, futuristic, set in a cyberpunk style type of thing with a lot of different kinetic stuff and all that. The game was very anticipated after a lot of great showings at E3 and with trailers with Keanu Reeves. And so after a few delays, the game came out about a month ago on December 10th. And while the game on PC was pretty solid, it had some bugs, but I mean every game has bugs. The game on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One was nearly unplayable. And so that mixed with the bugs definitely caused the game to get a lot of bad publicity once it came out, because like people dropped $60 expecting a fully playable game, and it was, like I said, like I had friends who were playing on the Xbox One and they like literally could not play it. It got so bad that Sony ended up removing the game from the PlayStation Store, and Xbox didn't remove it, but they put a disclaimer up, and then a lot of refunds were issued across the board on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, physical brick and mortar stores as well. Even with all the massive time crunch that the developers had to try to finish the game launched in a broken state. But this is actually not anything new. So Cyberpunk's launch is nothing that we haven't seen before. Games like WWE 2020, No Man's Sky, Battlefield 4, and just many, many others have had trouble launches. And we've seen games like The Last of Us 2, or the recommendation I had a few months ago about Sonic Extreme, where developers had ungodly time crunch where it was unhealthy for them. But so we've seen nothing new with this. But the first question I have for you guys really is this anger justified for all these people that got so mad at this game's launch, or is this kind of more the straw that broke the camel's back? Because, like I said, we've seen this before, even in their previous title, The Witcher 3. So is this everything kind of built up to this, or is this justified?
That's a tough question to answer. I mean, some anger is justified, but when people say that it's one of the messiest launches of all time, like it's one of the more publicized messy launches. But I mean, like you were saying, we've seen this happen before. They're gonna fix it probably, and then at some point everything will be okay. I mean, yeah, I think some retailers' websites crashed because so many people were asking for refunds. But I mean, other than that, like you bought a messy game, it was broken, you're gonna return it and eventually get your money back. That I think people just right now it's low hanging fruit. It's easy content and it's easy to poke fun at. But I mean, I really don't see this as that much different from any other messy launch, other than that it's just extremely publicized. But Johnny, what do you feel?
I disagree with you. I think that it's definitely justified. I don't have the game myself, but I have seen a lot of examples online of just things that just went way too wrong. And I will agree partially that this is more publicized than other messy launches, but I don't think that's like I don't think that that's unjustified. I don't think that is the sole reason or even the biggest reason as to why people have such an issue with it. Because the internet's been around for too long now, and we've had, like you said, so many games that have been buggy, but nothing that's been this big. And it could be because, like you said, it's just the last straw that gamers have had. But I don't know. I don't see a lot of games that have been this buggy and this hard to play in a long time. A lot of games, every game ever has bugs or glitches in it, but not like this. The best example that comes to mind is Sonic 06, and even that is somewhat playable. But back then the internet wasn't as close knit as it is today. So I don't think that it would have been possible back then for the internet and the gamers to really, make a change with their voice. But now I certainly think that this is well deserved. I'm glad to see that they're pulling it from the online stores and they're going to make some changes for it. And I'm glad to see that it sucks that the workers worked their asses off to do this. Like the game developers worked their asses off to do this. And then it comes out looking like this. And it's because of the time crunch and they just weren't given enough time, which is like two of the worst things that could happen. It's like, extend the game so it can be better. And then you also won't be overworking your employees, but rather than like working them to the bone, you're also working them to the bone to finish a game that's not ready to release.
Sorry, you finished that thought. I didn't mean to step on your toes.
It's just like you have to be so unsympathetic, and even past that, like even looking past the way that you're treating your workers, if you want a good game to sell copies, then doing this is like pushing a release date, making sure it happens by this date, no matter what. It's just like, it baffles me that this happened.
Apparently, this New York Times article that Luke shared, I was reading it and they were talking about Glassdoor, which is a site where people can anonymously post about the culture of a work environment.
Yeah, I use Glassdoor a lot to try to figure out how much I could make when I apply for jobs, because they'll show you like, because some will report it like if I were to leave my job, I could say I made this amount of dollars per hour, so then someone would know, if I'm applying for an admin assistant at a company like this, I can expect this amount of money.
It's really great because you can hear about the overall culture of a workplace, but also about the individual position you'll be at. And they were talking about on Glassdoor, employees were anonymously talking about CD Projekt Red workers, and there was complete incompetence from leadership, and they had astronomical projections for this, what's the word?
Yeah, they were
asking way too much. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was way too ambitious for what they were trying to have with the game, with its mechanics, with its features. Because that's almost any of these articles that talk about its development talk about how there were so many ideas and gameplay mechanics that had to be cut because they wanted to get this game out. Yeah. What's so crazy is. Like I said, like this game launched in such a bad state because the only other game that I can really think of that like launched in as unplayable of a state was Battlefield 4, and that was just because the multiplayer was completely broken. You could not play Battlefield 4 multiplayer for probably about 2 months but you could still play single player, or like Assassin's Creed Unity was buggy, and like sometimes NPCs would just yeet on out of the sky, or like their faces wouldn't load in, but you could still play it. Like even with this poor technical launch, like it was still playable. Where you try to go play Cyberpunk on a PS4 and it is not a fun time. It looks like a PS2 game. It runs at 10 frames a second and just like chugs along, and just so many. And then you throw in, then all of a sudden you'll just start T-posing in your car and a bunch of other just like issues. But yeah, it's insane how it came to this. The one thing I will give this game in its defense is you have to look at any game that comes out right now. You have to look at it in a with a little bit of like rose-tinted glass or something like that, because you have to remember this game came out in a pandemic. So on top of it being an ambitious game, because almost every game of this magnitude and this size does have glitches. GTA 5 Online was pretty buggy the first few months. Any big first-person shooter like has a lot of kinks they gotta work out at the start of the game. But like open world and RPG games, or open world RPGs like this, they always have some sort of issue that hurts the game at launch. But there's a lot less bugs that they find because they weren't in a pandemic, and so they were working from home, and they could contract out QA testing and all these things that hurt this game, and other games that have come out recently. Call of Duty is another one too, where there's a lot of bugs in Black Ops Cold War that just usually aren't in a Call of Duty game at launch. And so like it's a huge part of the issues, on top of the wide ambition, came from the fact that they had to develop the last 6, 7, 8 months of the game at home. And then you throw in also, this game came out at probably the worst possible time to develop a game for multi-platform, because it's at the transition period of a new console generation. So not only were they making the game on PC, they had to make the game on PS4, PS4 Pro, Xbox One, Xbox One X, the original Xbox One model from 2013 that can barely run games like Call of Duty at 900p, PC. Also, they're planning on releasing a PS5 and Xbox Series X and S version down the line. So that's 9, 10 consoles they have to develop for in a pandemic, in an ambitious game. So like it's they bit off a little more than they can chew, and that definitely is the heads of the studio's fault that they didn't just delay the game. But I do think that some games that come out right now do need just a hair bit of grace. But at the same time, they definitely could have delayed this game one more time, and they could have saved them this heap of trouble.
I know so few people that care like that much about delays that it angers them to the point where they just will not buy a game in protest of it. I just think that hopefully this can be a lesson. I don't think it's going to be, but hopefully this can be a lesson that in the future that delay a game as long as possible and give us something good. I think it's going to continue to happen. I think games are going to be released a little bit too soon. This one was way too soon, but games are going to continue to be released soon and fixed while people are still consuming the content. But hopefully this can be, some sort of turning point in the gaming industry.
Yeah. I mean, the one I wanted to bring up, the Shigeru Miyamoto quote that always gets brought up. A rush game is, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rush game is forever bad. And like, that's one of those that this game's legacy is going to be tainted for a long time. We've seen games come back from bad publicity, for either a poor launch or poor implementation of things. A couple games I can think of is Battlefield 4. That game launched horribly, like unplayable. And now that's considered one of the best Battlefield games of all time. Star Wars Battlefront 2, with its microtransaction controversy, really hurt the game. And, now the game is built a niche and it's fairly popular. No Man's Sky is probably the best example of this. That game launched as a bunch of half-baked ideas, a bunch of promises that were not met, and a lot of false advertising. And so Hello Games went and they improved the game. And the current version of the game now in 2021 is but what we thought the game was going to be when it came out in 2016, but it is a phenomenal game now for those who stuck around or those who picked it up after they made the changes. And, maybe once Cyberpunk gets some stability, gets that next gen port out there, it can be in that same realm. But also we've seen it. Sonic 06 still to this day is lambasted. You can easily find these YouTube videos talking about how Sonic's had a rough transition into 3D, and there are all these videos about why 06 is bad and all that. So,
do you think this game is going to be like that? Do you think it's going to have a comeback and it's going to become
a redemption? I think it can, redemption. Just because the people who I've talked to many people who've played it. Some of the Zach, who was on the Last of Us Mini with me. I know Michael Cripes played it and he's enjoyed it. A lot of people I've talked to that have played it and played it on either a PS5, Xbox One, Series X, or a decent PC. They've enjoyed it. They can put up with some visual glitches here and there where you're driving and all of a sudden your guy is T-posing and your clothes are off, because like that just it's unfortunate, but that happens. I was playing a game of zombies on Call of Duty a few weeks ago and I clipped through the floor and fell and died. And like I was mad because I died, but like it happens. I mean, like the backwards long jump glitch in Mario 64 is a speed running like technique, and so like there's glitches in games, and if they don't break the game, I mean that one breaks the game technically, but if they don't break the game to hinder you, then like I can put up with some glitches here and there. I can put up with things like the game not having as realistic rendering of shooting a bullet in a water compared to GTA 5 or this or that. But I think that because the base game is so strong, unlike some of these other games that have had poor launches and that never really recovered, that once a stable version of the game is out and people try the stable version, then it will have a little bit of redemption. I don't think it's going to, become people's favorite games of all time, but it'll be one that I think we will see a redemption story. I just don't know how long it'll take for that and how big of a redemption we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Connor, Connor, you were kind of asking though too, if you think this will change the gaming industry as a whole. So I guess that can be a good discussion. Johnny, like, do you think that we're actually going to see change from this? Or do you think that this is just going to be in there with the list of Sonic 06 and WWE 2020 and all these games that launched poorly, and it just happens because game developing is a hard and tedious task?
Yeah, I do think that this game will change. I think that I'm confident that they'll, with the edits that they'll make and the things that they're going to fix, they're going to make it a game that it was meant to be to begin with. But that does not change what they've already released. And
no, I'm not saying like this game. I'm saying the gaming industry. Like will we see big name games that have spent millions on marketing delay a game because it is not playable? It is too broken that they can't get it done in time to where they can release it without it being like riddled with bugs that you can't play it.
Well, yes and no. I think that this is definitely a learning experience for a lot of game creators out there and game developers, because I don't think obviously nobody wants this to be their game. This wants to be their legacy. But there's always going to be there's always going to be shitty people, and there's always going to be people that are pushing for something to come out right away, even if it's not ready. And they had to have known. The makers of this game knew what they were releasing to the public. So yeah, I think that this is definitely it's a learning experience for some, but really I don't think it's not going to change anything, because if we've learned anything from 2020, it's that stubborn people are definitely still out there, and they're going to do what they want to do, and it doesn't matter. So like
as long as there are shareholders to be pleased, this shit will continue to happen. That's
why it's not going to change. It's the same. So
yeah, exactly.
I can bring up Call of Duty for a lot of these issues for the same reason that it's like where things don't change until it hurts the shareholders. For the longest time, we would see microtransactions in games in these just egregious, horrible ways possible. And, luckily, people got so mad at Star Wars Battlefront 2 that did change it to where now it's kind of gone by the wayside. But I remember, there's some of the Call of Duties, like Black Ops 3, for example, there are guns in that game that I will never have because they're locked behind loot boxes that you have a fraction of a percent chance to get, that I would have to spend upwards of $1,000 just to have a good enough chance to maybe get it, that I will never be able to use the guns because there's no other way to unlock it. So like stuff like that was so egregious and so bad, and it took until people were, not playing as much Call of Duties for them to change it. And then they changed it, and then Modern Warfare became the best-selling Call of Duty of all time, and because legal action was threatened and shareholders don't want to lose their money. So that's the whole reason why this game came out when it did, because the shareholders had to get the game out in time for Christmas, because that Christmas and new console money was going to make them a ton of money. Like, the game before its refunds was one of the best-selling games of 2020, and it came out in December. So like it's just frustrating that that stuff like that happened. I don't know. It's hard for me to see changes actually coming to the gaming industry as a whole because of shareholders. Maybe an indie developer or a smaller studio might learn from this, but this is not going to change next year's Call of Duty or Madden or these other games, Assassin's Creed. Like, we're still going to get a broken release from one of those games or some other stupid stuff.
A good example to give out would be, I think, in my opinion, Halo. Halo has been delayed, and what we saw from the Xbox...
Yeah, the showcase. Yeah, the one they had in the summer, and where the game looked like an Xbox 360 game.
Yes, yeah, and they were going to delay it, and they're not going to give us something until it's ready and it's going to be a good example of the power of the new technology, especially with what Cyberpunk did to CD Projekt Red. I think Halo, if anything, they might even delay it even longer because they're going to make sure that there's absolutely nothing that gamers can pick apart. But I think on a more positive note, but this just might be, wishful thinking. I think on a more positive note, this will encourage one major studio, and then that will hopefully do a domino effect of another major studio, and another major studio will eventually learn from this mistake. And even though some games are going to be released and they're going to be clunky and unfinished, hopefully the culture will change and people might be able to say, hey, I think you guys have unreachable ambitions, and then hopefully that will start a conversation of people not having to post comments anonymously on Glassdoor for any sort of critique to be heard by upper level management.
God, I hope so, because it's more like I was playing Black Ops with some friends like Zach and Ryan, who's been on the show before, and just some others, and like it's just been so frustrating because I enjoy things in Cold War. Like, there's a lot of good mechanics in the game, but then there's so many things that just like go wrong with it that just like frustrate me, because the game came out during a pandemic and they forced Treyarch to make it instead of Sledgehammer. So like there's so many things that like the game just is not polished. And if the shareholders of Activision would have just said, hey, let's just run with Modern Warfare and then release the game a little later or take a year off, then it would have helped the series so much more than like what we're in now with Black Ops. And it's unfortunate because like Black Ops is a good game, but it could have used a delay. Just like Cyberpunk seems to be a good game, although I haven't played it, but it could have used a delay. So yeah, I do hope that with what Cyberpunk's done and with Halo, especially if Halo Infinite does come out and is Game of the Year material, I think that maybe we can see something. But it's just so hard because capitalism just makes people just want that money quick, and they'll exploit them any way they can with stuff like, oh, here's here's a 16-hour crunch day you're going to do to work on this game, and instead of, sleep at the office instead of going home so you can get more work done. And it's bad. I do hope this is a learning curve, but just I don't know if I'm just being pessimistic, but I just really don't see it doing that much of a change.
Well, you hope for the best but plan for the worst.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think this has been a learning curve for a lot of people. I think the other big one to do too is, just like with any other big name release, just sometimes you have to hold off on pre-ordering. As much as I love to pre-order my games too, sometimes it might be better, especially new IPs, even if it's a developer that it might be better to wait, because you're going to get games like this. You're going to get games like Sonic Forces where it's a disappointment. You're going to, if you wait until the reviews come out, until your friends play it, then you can know, okay, a lot of my friends love this game. Oh, I'll get it. Oh, but the game's a little buggy right now on my Xbox. I'll wait till the first few patches come out. And then you can get a better experience than someone like I bought No Man's Sky at release, and I enjoyed it, but it got boring very quick with all the half-baked ideas. And I got far enough in the game that when they fixed it, it was too far that I had to start over. And so then there's part of me that wishes I could have got the game a few months later when the first few big updates were out, because then I'd probably still be playing it now in 2021. Instead, I traded the game in a couple years ago because I didn't want to start over on my progress.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, luckily for Johnny's case is that with him being a Nintendo fan, a lot of this stuff is things that he doesn't have to deal with as much because Nintendo is better about these things. I mean, we saw Animal Crossing got delayed, and it got delayed to a less desirable time of the year. March is not the best time to release a game. Like Animal Crossing, proved otherwise because of the pandemic. But typically, your best games of the year in terms of sales don't come out in March. They're the November, December, October releases. The Call of Duties and Mario Odyssey, Smash, those are games that came out at the end of the year, and they were the top sellers. And this game coming out in March should have hurt it, but then with how perfect it was for the pandemic, it became, I want to say it was the third best-selling game of the year outside of both Modern Warfare and Black Ops Cold War, which is crazy.
The funny thing is, even if the quality didn't change at all, even if they were completely done with Animal Crossing in November of 2019, if they'd released it in when it's supposed to be big sales, I still think that it would have been less than what it actually did, because the pandemic helped Animal Crossing, and Animal Crossing helped the pandemic. So, I think that it was such a colossal, unpredictable thing that it actually boosted Animal Crossing sales more than they could have ever predicted. So
yeah, and
it was a fluke, but it was a good one
too. So when they announced the delay at E3, and Doug Bowser was like, "We're doing this to avoid crunch, so we can have a healthy work-life balance, and just get the game out properly." Nintendo had a 3.5% loss in reaction to the delay, which was a loss of a value of $1 billion. And then it turned out to be well for them. And so I think that developers see that scary, we could lose a big percentage of our stocks here, and then
Luke, are you saying that Nintendo caused the pandemic? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
right now?
Nintendo was like, we're gonna delay the game. But yeah, it's funny that Animal Crossing is a perfect example of it working out in their favor in many ways, because sure, they lost money a little bit there, and then they made it back, and probably made it back more than they expected. And sure, that outlier of the pandemic definitely helped, but we could see the same with Halo, where them delaying Halo from launching the Xbox Series X to coming out around a year for the system being out could mean that this could be the Halo game that fans have wanted for a long time, because the Halo fans have been kind of split since 343 took over when Bungie left after Halo Reach, and this could be finally the one that gets the fans back in the series, and a big reason that could have been the delay, and it would just be better for games that take a little bit from that, or how many times I know it pisses Johnny off to no end that once Mario comes out and once Pokemon Snap comes out, we know nothing else for Nintendo that's coming out. We know we're going to eventually get Metroid Prime 4, maybe. We know we're going to get the sequel to Breath of the Wild at some point, but we don't know hard release dates. But that's been such a Nintendo thing, to wait until the games are in a good enough state where they can announce it, that there are very few and rare delays for things like Mario and Smash Brothers and stuff like that. Before we recorded, I brought it up. They announced Mario Odyssey in 2017. We first saw footage of it about a year before the game came out, but we didn't know the official game until 2017, and then the game came out that October. We didn't know about Smash officially, like, there was rumblings and we knew a Smash sequel would come to the Switch, but we didn't know about Smash Ultimate until 2018. So, like, Nintendo kind of, keeping up their sleeves until the games are ready to be announced sucks for times like right now where they may have delayed a few games, but we never knew the games were delayed. But then at the same time, then these games have came out polished and full of little to no game-breaking bugs. Like online is horrible on Mario Maker 2, but besides that, like the game is very polished, where Cyberpunk wasn't, and Call of Duty wasn't, and stuff like that.
I'm sure Nintendo will never do this, but I would love, like, a year or 2 years from now, or whenever we get out of the pandemic, I would absolutely love for Nintendo to release their initial plans. Like, when were their games that came out through the pandemic supposed to come out? When were they supposed to be announced? And so, like, I would love to know, like, what their thought process is for that. Because even I could be wrong, but I was watching some like Age of Calamity voice actor interviews and stuff, and they said that even they were doing the voices for the characters in the middle of the pandemic. So it came out just a few months ago, but they were voice acting pretty much right up until the release of the game itself. So it looks like there's the schedule's not shifted completely. It just, I don't know. I would just love to know what their initial plan is versus what actually happened. So
I there was one, at least a lot of the Mario stuff we were supposed to get before, I can't remember exactly when we got the Mario stuff, but like we were supposed to get the Mario stuff
out
before
in September.
Yeah, we were supposed to get a lot of the Mario Mini before September, because there was stuff in like fully completed stuff in the files of like Mario Maker for the Ninja Speed run like months ago. There was a lot of stuff that we were supposed to get, I want to say, like in like the spring and summer, and then with the pandemic, probably just to finish the polish of the port and like that, they delayed it. But it definitely be interesting to see what games that were planned got pushed back, and we've seen Nintendo do that too. I can't remember which one it is, but either Captain Toad or Yoshi's Crafted World, or another one of their games that came out around. I think it was Yoshi. I want to say Yoshi was done and ready for release in like fall of 2018, and they didn't put it out until 2019 just because they could. And so I wonder too, like how many of those other games that they were planning on doing that, where they were gonna kind of build up a backlog of stuff to put out, and then everything got thrown off with the delay of the pandemic.
Yeah, well, I'm very much looking forward to whenever we're outside of this, so we can get our normal movies back and video games back and everything back. But we've been saying that for 11 months, so
eventually. Well, I mean, now I would say now that we have a vaccine that's making its way to me, that can help. But then there's that new strand that is in the United Kingdom that is going around pretty bad. But who knows?
I always love a good sequel.
Yeah.
But yeah, but back with more of the cyberpunk type of thing. I just hope that we do see a change. I'm a little pessimistic about it, just because like I've seen it before where like we haven't seen too much change, but maybe a game this big and this much money that was lost from refunds could change things. But
well, see, the way I see it is nothing that we're even talking about is a new concept. Really, there's no such thing as a new concept anymore for anything. But like, if this could happen to this scale for this game, then there's no doubt in my mind that it could happen again, because this shouldn't have happened with Cyberpunk 2077. So like,
with all the marketing and stuff, yeah, that front, it was all fake. I saw someone comparing it to Firefest, if you guys remember that.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
Disaster. Yeah, it's very comparable to that. But I mean, you're right. It's
like, if this
it
happened,
should spark a change, but will it actually?
Yeah,
because if this had happened like 20 years ago, I'd be like, okay, they learned and it probably will get fixed and it won't happen again. But it's 2021 and it came out like a few months ago, 2020. There's no way that needed to happen. Pandemic or not, they could have postponed it. They could have not, worked their employees to death. They could have, there's so many things they could have done differently and they didn't. So if it happened last year, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen next year. It's going to happen again the year after that.
Hopefully, too, when they do delay games, fans can accept it. Because I know that was probably another factor that led to the game being released premature, because the game was delayed a few times this year alone, because it was supposed to come out originally back in April, and then they pushed it back to September, and then they pushed that back to October, November, and then delayed it again. Like, it got delayed 3 or 4 times in the last couple months even, and to where it finally was coming out December 10th, and like, there were dumb people that are like, oh, if this gets delayed again, I'm canceling my pre-order. It's like, why?
Okay, but go ahead.
But I know that like developers,
it really makes sense if you don't think about it.
Yeah,
I know that developers were getting death threats because they delayed a game, and so I wonder too,
fucking motherfuckers.
Because they were just getting so upset about like all the negativity and hate, they were okay, fine, we'll just release it. But yeah, it's just like, let the game be delayed. If a game needs to be delayed, awesome. I get that you want to have things come out in time for holidays or for anniversaries. Like if whatever the 30th anniversary Sonic game is, if that doesn't come out in 2021, it's a bummer because it didn't come out for the 30th anniversary. But if that means that we don't have another Sonic 06 in our hands, I don't care. I just want a good Sonic game again, because I want a good Sonic game made by a Sonic team again, because that hasn't happened in almost a decade. So like if they have to delay that game into early 2022, I will still buy it, and I will love it hopefully more because it had more time to flesh out, but also who knows too, because they were working on Forces for 4 years and that game still sucks too. But so maybe Sonic's not the best idea with it, but if Breath of the Wild's sequel, whether it's Breath of the Wild 2 or whatever they're going to call it, if they have been planning the 2021 release date for Zelda's 35th anniversary for a while now and it can't meet that, then it's better to delay it, because then especially...
And they will. Nintendo is going to announce... Here's what's going to happen with Zelda. It'll announce at E3 this year, or whatever the equivalent of it will be. It'll come out in November. And then September, October will roll around, and they'll say, hey, psych, it's not coming out in November anymore. It's coming out next year sometime. So... even when we have a release date for Zelda, that's not going to be the release date for Zelda.
But not going to.
But also,
and so whatever the release date is, 2 years after that,
exactly,
plan for it.
And that's all big Zelda games. They always get. Well, I can't say that. I can't say that for certain, because that could just be. My statement could be proven false. But I know that
they're listening.
It's a common trend in Zelda games.
I do think it's happened multiple times where they do say a release date and then they change it. But honestly, that's okay, because I can't think of a bad Zelda game since Zelda 2, and even a lot of people like Zelda 2. So it's whatever it is. But Nintendo's not exactly bad. Nintendo's not bad about releasing a game too early. They are bad about not communicating with their fans, which I'll mention every single week on this podcast. But
that's just, it's way better than the alternative of a lot of communication, a lot of hype, a lot of marketing, a lot of Keanu Reeves, and then nothing.
Yeah. But
as breathtaking as he is.
You're breathtaking.
He is breathtaking.
But I mean, Zelda is a good example of a game that's probably going to get delayed, and it's going to be good, especially with the anticipation we're going to be getting from a game as regarded as Breath of the Wild. That Nintendo's going to take their sweet ass time on this, and they should. And you know what? That's fine. If that game comes out in 2021, awesome. If that game comes out in 2023, awesome. As long as the game is done and ready to go, and outside of a handful of glitches you're going to see in a game, whatever. As long as it's nothing too groundbreaking where the game just breaks, I don't care. So yeah, I just hope we see changes. I just don't know if we will. But so if you haven't played Cyberpunk yet and you are trying to play on anything that's not a decent build of a PC, wait just a little bit longer, and then just keep looking on the internet when those patches come out. I know we're supposed to get one later this month, and then a few more in the spring. But this is impacting the game as well, on top of obviously its performance, because now, since they're having to work so hard on getting the game stable, now all the expansions have been delayed, and there's probably expansion stuff that's been cut, and all this could have been avoided if they just would have delayed the game. But oh well. Let's move on then into recommendations now then. And so last time, a few episodes ago, feels like forever ago, I recommended in episode 45, Super Shadow, The Light in the Darkness by The Game Apologist. So I had mentioned before, I recommended this video because Nick, the guy who runs The Game Apologist, I liked his style of videos. He's done a lot of great stuff looking at different important characters and things in the Sonic games, even the comic books. He did a whole video on Sally Acorn and all that. So I picked this one as a good one to show off his style and stuff, with him talking about Shadow the Hedgehog, who I mentioned many times is my favorite character in the series. So it's a 35-minute video gushing about Shadow, about the Edgelord himself. So what are your guys' thoughts in the video? Connor, let's start with you.
I thought it was really good. I really love the video essays that you recommend. Even if I don't know too much about the content, I usually I find myself learning something new, like with Tetris. That was the first video game I ever played, but I never really got too far into it, but I still found myself being fascinated by the content. And that happened again this time as well. Even though I haven't played a lot of Sonic, I've played a little bit, enough to at least know what was vaguely going on for most of the video. Excuse me. And this one, I was able to appreciate it a lot more than Tetris because I've played a little bit. And this one was just another one that hit the mark, and I find myself learning a lot. I really do love how fleshed out Shadow has become, even though there are some people that aren't too happy with the way his character has been in recent history.
Every character, okay, every Sonic character that's not Sonic or Eggman has not been good since like Sonic Unleashed. Like that's just it's unfortunate. Like maybe in the comics they've been good. In
Omega's pretty great in Team Sonic Racing. Just gonna say,
in canon portrayals, like in the mainline games, like we haven't, like Tails has been worthless. Knuckles has been worthless. Shadow has been just like they have not been good characters really in a long time. So like that's not a trope that's exclusive to Shadow, unfortunately.
And you of all people would know way more about that than I have not experienced that decline. But yeah, I thought this was another one that hit the mark. Keep on coming, please.
Definitely will do. Johnny, what about you? What did you think of the Game Apologist video here?
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. I like that it took me back to a lot of the all the games that I played of Sonic that have Shadow in it, and it kind of is like it is an explanation of like his journey, and it goes deep dives into his story, and I really like that because I've played all the games that they mentioned. I think I have. I'm pretty sure I have. But Shadow the Hedgehog is the one that haven't played in forever, and so I remembered very little about that. But yeah, getting to see the journey with Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Heroes and Shadow and Sonic 06, some of his big games, like big Shadow games, are. It was really cool to see, like back when Sonic wasn't always the only big character in a Sonic game, like you were saying, the way it should be. But yeah, I really love it because Shadow's one of my favorite characters as well. I'm pretty sure I've talked about it before on the podcast, but my brother and I, we played the Sonic games before, and they were so hard to get like A's and everything that we split the characters up. And every single game that had Shadow playable, I was Shadow. So Shadow's really one of my favorite characters, really important. His backstory is really, really awesome. And yeah, it was just a good video essay on who Shadow is and what he's gone through. And so
that means you got lucky with 06 because Shadow's story is the best in 06, and Shadow's gameplay is solid enough. Like it's the least broken compared to Sonic and Silver's. Yeah,
we my brother got Sonic, I got Shadow, and then we alternated with Silver. So because I know that Silver's was Oof, really tough. So we alternated with Silver, but yeah, Shadow was a lot of fun. I like getting to like fly around on those gliders, and I'm pretty sure you even get to use guns. I think in that game, or maybe I'm just thinking of Shadow.
You're in mechs, but yeah, they're not as much of like typical full gun pickups.
But yeah, it's you get to use a lot of vehicles in that game. That was really cool. But yeah, Shadow's a really cool character, and he's always been one of my favorite characters. All of Team Dark, including Omega and Rouge, are just 3 of my favorite characters. But that's also because they were the ones that I played as.
Well, they're also just so much more fleshed out than like there's so much of their stories that are like Shadow is one of the most dynamic characters in the series because of like how complex his backstory is. He's not just like, oh, I am evil because I am Eggman, or oh, I am hero because I'm Sonic. Like he has reasons behind his motivations, and even if some are a little goofy, like how he can be at times in Shadow the Hedgehog, or how it's kind of went in more of the current era where Shadow is just like an anti-hero bully, not as much of like a complex character. Like, there still is like he has a lot more complexity behind him, and you see that his relationship with Rouge and Omega is like there's a lot that goes into that dynamic more than just they're friends.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I think is really good about what Shadow used to be. You said that a lot of characters are ruined, and I think that is because in modern Sonic games because they don't give anybody else time to actually be fleshed out. It's all Sonic all the time, and I don't think that Sonic is what made Sonic as a series as good as it is. It was all of the characters put together, including Shadow, including Tails, including Knuckles and Rouge and Omega and Cream and Amy. Like all of them are what make the Sonic series so great. And when you don't have that in modern games, when you only have Sonic or a variation of Sonic, it's just not going to be as good as it used to be or as good as it could be. And all Shadow does now is, it's like you said, he's the edgy guy only for the sake of being edgy. But that's not really it is who Shadow's always been, but he was more complex than that in the past. And he had reasons, and he had, he's not a bad guy. He's not a good guy by any means, but he's not a bad guy either. He's his own person, and he's not like, he's not going to go buddy with Sonic. He's not even like going to show his friendship and appreciation towards Omega and Rouge the same way that Sonic would towards Tails and Knuckles. But there is that like unspoken appreciation of each other that you just won't see today, that you won't see in modern games. And it is a bit of a bummer. That's kind of going away from the video that you showed us and more just about Shadow in general. But it is, Shadow is a character that's arguably the most complex character in the whole series. So, yeah, I'm really glad you had us watch this about him in particular because, he is one of the best characters to do a deep dive on for the series.
Yes. So, what would your guys' scores then be on this video, Connor?
8 out of 10 best light up shoes of all time.
The best shoes.
I'd give it 9 out of 10 ultimate life forms.
Awesome. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed the video. I already have my next one planned. It's not a video. It'll be music, but I'll look for that in a few weeks. But Johnny, it is your turn again. So what do you have for us this week?
Well, it is, we are into the new year, and so it is 2021, but we need to say and give a proper farewell to the actual dumpster fire that was 2020. There's a Netflix documentary that's about an hour long, and it's called Death to 2020, and it is basically a recap of the year, and it goes into from January to December. It goes into all the things that went wrong in that year, and it's got a lot of big names in it, and it's just
what went wrong is a podcast called Rocket Talk started posting.
That's true. We were the cause. Yeah. We were the cause of 2020. But yeah, it's called Death to 2020. It's on Netflix, and it's going to be the final middle finger to the year that has come and gone, because or despite the fact that everybody seems to think that this year is going to be any different. It's not, but we're just going to pretend that it is. And we can say goodbye to 2020 and leave all that shit behind.
Perfect. I will definitely enjoy one last goodbye to 2020, even though I had some good things that year with Rosa and others, but it'll be good. Awesome. So if you also want to watch it, like Johnny said, it is on Netflix, so be sure to watch that. I pulled it up on Netflix. It's an hour and 10 minutes, so be sure to see that. So that moves on into the end of the episode where we talk about sponsorships and pushing social medias and all that. So a quick reminder that this podcast is sponsored by Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast. Visit anchor.fm to start your own. This podcast is also sponsored by ByLightFixtures.com. Visit ByLightFixtures.com for a trusted source of quality lighting products for your business or home. And of course, always, a big thank you to Tom Taylor of Tailored Beats for the intro and the outro pieces that play for this podcast. You can follow him on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/tailoredproductions. And of course, follow our social medias. Now that school's starting up with Abby, I will have more free time to play video games, so I will get back into the streaming a little bit. And I know that as some of these big games coming out, so that we have plans to hopefully expand on that as well. So be sure to follow our Twitch. And then also our Twitter and Facebook, as one of our goals for 2021 is using our social medias a lot more than we have been. So be on the lookout for that, as we will hopefully have some more content. And then one last shout out as well. Johnny, I know you want to shout out our good friend Hollie's Etsy, so why don't you let people know about what that is and where they can find it?
Yeah, so we have a personal friend of ours named Hollie, and she has her own store on Etsy called Hollie Pop Crayon Shop. She promotes it as their mom-made customizable and scented crayons. So if you have any kids of yourself, you are a parent, and you want any fun crayons for your kids, there's letters, you can spell out your kids' names, unicorns, triangle crayons, and customizable dinosaur crayons. We can have a link to the store in the description below. It's called, again, Hollie Pop Crayon Shop. Highly recommend it. They look like they're a lot of fun. They have all the colors in the rainbow and more. So yeah, go ahead and follow that link if you or your kids would be interested.
And that's Hollie with an I-E, Hollie Pop Crayon Shop. So you can go to etsy.com/Hollie Pop Crayon Shop, and like Johnny said, it'll also be in the description below. But yeah, definitely go take a look at it, and if you want to support our good friend Hollie, do that. She is a wonderful nerd herself. We will definitely have to have her on to talk about her favorite nerdy stuff as well soon as well. But yeah, definitely wanted to give her a quick shout out for that, because she is wonderful. I know she's one of Johnny's favorite people, and while I may not have interacted with her as much as Johnny has, she is a wonderful, wonderful human being. So be sure to do that.
She is a sweet bean.
Yes, the sweetest bean of them all. But so that'll wrap up episode 47, and we are now back in the full swing of things. So be sure to tune in each week for some more fun episodes, including in a couple weeks. We'll be celebrating our 50th episode, and we're going to go big or go home with that one. So be sure to listen to that and keep listening. And like I said earlier, be on our social medias, because in 2021, we plan on being on that a lot more with just random tweets and reviews to more streaming. So we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye for now.